Straight out of rehab, crazy motherfucker named Tyler. He did a lot of drugs. Hi, welcome back to the Pink Pussy Podcast. I'm your host, Ty Weggert. Um, yeah, I just got out of rehab like a week ago. It was pretty chill. I uh I learned a lot about myself and our changing bodies. Um, I discovered that I really fucking love hats now. I love hats. I'm wearing one right now. I'm sitting on a couch that I purchased from my best friend. Shout out to James. He gave me a great deal on this couch. Um, $50. $50 is what this couch cost. But yeah. So I kind of just wanted to talk about my rehab experience on the podcast because some of it's really funny, and I think it might be able to like help people and um, maybe like lessen like the stigma of like mental health and like rehab and stuff of that nature. But I guess let's start from the beginning. So when I was 20 years old, I went to my therapist, and he was like, "Hey, you should have a emergency prescription for a drug in case you have a panic attack," because I was struggling with things of that nature at the time. And so he writes me a prescription for um, five Xanax pills, and I I take his advice, and um, the first time I took Xanax, it I was having some relationship problems with this lady I was seeing at the time, and I was very stressed out. That whole relationship stressed me out, and I was chain smoking cigarettes at the time, and this person said something to me that really stressed me out. And to be fair, I was a giant pussy back then, and other things are going on too. But I I was supposed to have a dinner with my grandparents that day at my parents' house, and I told my dad, I was like, I need the Xanax because uh, I gave them to him for safekeeping because they can. I don't know if you know this, but Xanax can be incredibly addicting. But so I gave them to him for safekeeping, and he's like, "All right, here you go," and he gave me one of the pills, and I took it, and it was probably like the greatest feeling that I've had since then. I know it sounds sad, but I'm gonna call a spade a spade here. But um, yeah, the first time I took Xanax was probably one of the best feelings like in my life, and like I described it as like getting like a hug from God or some shit. Like everything's gonna be okay, and it's like a pure feeling of euphoria and calmness, like all at once, which is like something that I was like searching for at the time. And then the next day, I uh, I was so stupid. I couldn't. I felt so dumb. I couldn't read the next day, um, because Xanax fucks you up pretty bad, and especially the first time taking it and the amount that I did. But so I had four pills left, and I would I used them like one time at like a party setting at homecoming at my school I went to, and just not using them in a safe manner. I took them while I was driving one time to school, and like almost crashed my car. And thank God I was very close to the school when I got there. But um, and then eventually those 5 pills ran out pretty quickly, and then I saw my dad found this fucking Christian doctor where where I live near. It's near Lidditz, PA. But Dr. Powers, this fucking old man. He had a lot of Bible verses quotes on his walls, and I was like, oh Jesus. And so he sits me down. Like I tell him all the things that's been going on in like my mental state at the time, and he's like, all right, do you want a Xanax prescription? And I was like, because like I knew Xanax was like very bad. It is very bad. Uh, but I was like, nah, I'll. And then he mentioned Klonopin, which is another benzodiazepine. It's like the same thing as Xanax. It's just like it's a longer lasting effect. Um, but they're both all benzos are extremely addictive and they ruin people's lives. But and I didn't want to take I didn't want to get a Xanax prescription because I knew of people like overdosing and dying from Xanax, but the same shit happens with Klonopin. It's like the same exact thing. And I was like, hey, maybe this will be safer. So I was like, hey, just he was kind of pushing the pills on me, if I'm being honest. And I to be fair, I also should have done more of a research, but I was I was a young kid and I forgave myself for that. But and so he writes me like 90 pills for like 90 days. And yeah, I just that became like a regular part of like my life, like taking a whole Klonopin every night to like go to sleep because I have extremely hard time falling asleep. And yeah, it was, and you're not supposed to do that every day. I don't know if you know that, but um, one of the things he told me when he was prescribing it, that he said uh that a veteran came back from war and he like prescribed him Klonopin, and that uh he took it every day for 30 years and he was fine. Which is like the most bonkers like bullshit of a story anomaly that I've ever heard. Like you're not no one's supposed to take Klonopin for any extended period amount of time. Ugh, extended amount of time. But yeah, I think this doctor was full of shit, if I'm being honest. As I feel like a lot of doctors are that prescribe pills like these. But that's besides the point. Anyway, um so so yeah, I started taking Klonopin every day, starting at 20. Um I would often like drink and mix those two together, and which is a horrible combination. Like, don't ever do that because you can die. And there are definitely points uh, since then while I was taking them that I was like, I didn't care whether or not I lived or died when I was mixing them, because I was doing it to a pretty high degree, and just being very careless and unsafe. And I noticed that I would like take more Klonopin if I was like in like a relationship, because the relationships I was in were very sort of toxic, and kind of solely based on like drinking, I'd say, and like getting fucked up together. And which was fun for the time it was happening, but then when it got bad, it was bad, you know. And just not I was not like valuing myself really. and it's kind of just like letting people take advantage of me, I think, in some senses. And and like the people I was with like knew I was like taking Klonopin and like drinking, and then that oh, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but like the people I was with were definitely like enablers, and like buying me shit like when I was like underage, and and like they knew like I had like a drinking problem, but like they didn't like say anything really to like help, I guess. But I don't blame them for anything. I've kind of made peace with all that shit in the past. But fuck, I forgot my train of thought. But so yeah, I that just became a thing where I would every night without questions like take Klonopin every night, and then when things can get would get like really bad, I would like not really bad, but like I just wanted to get like more fucked up, I guess, because like the one Klonopin like wasn't like working, so I would either like chew it or like crush it up and like snort it, which I've done a few times, and that is don't ever do that. It's not cool. It's not fun. Um, you get a really bad headache, but you do feel like calmer, but it's not worth it. Fucking benzos are like the worst, one of the worst drugs in my opinion. And yeah, and I just continued to do that for about 2 years, and like straight every day. And you're not supposed to to be taking these pills for for that long, especially mixing them with alcohol. And yeah, and then my drinking became worse as well. I I damaged a couple friendships because of like yelling at people when I was really fucked up, and like um one time I blacked out the night before I had a job interview, and I literally remember looking at the bartender, and there was this guy with like a very underage, not underage, but like very much younger girlfriend at this bar in Lancaster. Just thinking like this is fucking weird. And then I could tell that the this guy next to me was trying to like hit on this like single like mom like lady, and then I just remember looking at the bartender. He made like a weird face, and then I woke up at home. It's like that John Mulaney bit, but and uh, and I had like a job interview like that day, and I was like the most anxious and stressed I've ever felt was after that time, and I was luckily able to get that job. That was the fucking window place, and but yeah, yeah, my I also lost my phone that night. Um, I blacked out, and I like went to like my best friend. Shout out to James Duncan. He's like a fucking saint, as well as his girlfriend Maddie. They helped me find my car with the find my iPhone, and luckily I apparently Ubered back and didn't drive home that night, and but I was like that just like the amount of like sheer terror of like what happened like that night, you know, and because I like still like have no idea like I like checked like the Uber status. It was like who is like I don't like remember like the Uber driver's name or anything, and yeah, it was a bad look, and I definitely like worried like a lot of people, and which is one of my biggest regrets in all this, and definitely fucked up certain relationships with people. But yeah, and what was I gonna say? How do I get out of this? Anyway, so yeah, and I would just that was the last night that I drank. That night, um, when I blacked out and like lost my car, I was luckily able to find it, and yeah, and and I'm glad that was like the last night that I drank because like whenever I drink, it's just like it turns like dark, like my mind just turns like dark, and I just feel like oh fuck everything, like nothing matters, like I don't care if like I live or die, sort of thing. Because it's like it's a depressant, and like people, I don't think a lot of people understand like if you're like depressed and you drink a lot of alcohol, it's like not good for someone with like depression and shit. Which is why weed is way better, but that's besides the point. um, and but yeah, that was the moment where I was like, oh fuck, I think I like have like an issue with all this stuff. And I I went to Tellus, which is it's a bar in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where I was like meeting this girl who was like visiting, um, because like we kind of like liked each other a little bit, and but I told her I didn't want to go to a bar because she knew that I wasn't like drinking because she knew I had a problem, and so I she really wanted to go to this bar, and I was kind of a pussy and I was like, fine, we can go to the bar. But while I was at the bar, this like lady comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, were you at Yorgos?" Which is like a bar. Also, fuck Yorgos, fuck that place in Lancaster. But they uh, they said to me like, "Oh, you were so cute, like falling over at Yorgos that one time. Like it was so cute and funny." And I was like, "What?" Because I didn't even like recognize this girl, and like I didn't remember like falling over in Yorgos because I blacked out, and it's like it's weird when people tell you stories about yourself that you don't remember, which is it's scary. It's the scariest thing in the world, and like thank God like nothing happened, and like no one like got hurt, including myself, you know. And yeah, but yeah, so I'm still taking like Klonopin up until this point. This is like in December or January of uh yeah, around January of this year. And so um I got my like my medical marijuana card, which is weed is kind of the best. I am not smoking for like the next like 4 months because I need to like figure out how to be happy on my own without substances, according to my therapist. But no, I do want to do that, and so I decide that I want to take mushrooms because it is very helpful for people with obsessive compulsive disorder, which is something I've had since I was a wee lad in middle school and high school, and yeah, so I have a terrible trip, as I've talked about a little bit in the past, and I end up trying to commit suicide while on mushrooms, and yeah, and I also tried to commit suicide when I was 19 at Slippery Rock University, my old college. And I haven't really told anybody about that besides a couple people, but it is what it is. And so that was another wake up call after the night that I blacked out, and my friend had to like help me find my car. And that night I tried to kill myself, and I got a I got charged for it. Like the police were involved, and I tried to get the police to shoot me for about 10 minutes, just screaming at them. Allegedly, this is alleged. No, it's real, but um, yeah. And then I had a like a flashback type thing where I from the mushroom mix experience. I don't know what it was. It might have been like a panic attack type thing, and my I tried to like run out of my house at like 2 a.m. and my dad like tackled me because he didn't want me to go outside the house because last time I went outside of the house I got tased by the police, and my foot ended up going through a door, and I gotta still pay my dad back for that, and that was a whole thing. And then the police ended up dragging me out of my house and into like an ambulance because yeah, they had to like restrain me, the police did. And then while I was in the ambulance I did my best to like get out of the handcuffs, and it was like trying to like Hulk out, and it didn't work, and I was out of my mind, and I ended up giving myself nerve damage in my left wrist. Excuse me, I'm gonna drink some water. And I'm still wearing a brace for that now. That was back in May, but it's healing. Luckily, I have some nerve damage and possible carpal tunnel, but I can't really like afford the medical uh bills for this anyway, because that's a whole other story about I'm a lot of debt. And so yeah, and while I was in uh the hospital, my parents were like, hey, maybe you should go to like rehab for like your drugs and your drinking, and I was like, I don't want to go to fucking rehab, you know. Um, 'Cause at that point, I didn't really want to admit that I like had like a problem with like substances and shit. But after like just like looking at my hand and how fucked up it was, and just like everything that happened within like the last like 2 or 3 years, I was like, fuck, maybe I do. 'Cause I don't know, when I was younger, I always like had a like the thought that I like one day would just like my life would end by me like ODing on drugs, and that's just what I thought was gonna happen to me, because I didn't want to like live to be like old, and I kind of was depressed, and I've attempted suicide before in the past, but luckily that's not something I want to do now. And yeah, so long story short, long story short, it's 24 minutes in, but but I decide to apply for some rehabs. There was one in Pennsylvania. I'm not gonna say like the name of the rehab, obviously, but um, there's one in Pennsylvania, and there's also one in Tennessee, and I was denied from the one in Pennsylvania because this is so stupid. Like, they said that I had a drug problem and a mental health problem, which is true. But like almost everyone that has a drug problem tends to have a mental health problem as well. So, and I've talked to like several people about this, and they all say the same thing. So, yeah, it's fucking stupid. Anyway, but I did get into this one in Tennessee, and so that's why I'm a little tanner now. If a couple people ask me why I was so tan, I wasn't at the beach, um, but yeah. So I we went down, me and my family. My parents drove me. We stopped and visited my brother in Ohio and then drove the rest of the way down. And yeah, I was in a bad spot um, before I went down. I lost like 15 pounds um, in like a 2 week span after the time where I fucked up my wrist because I was feeling a little depressed and shit. Just like was not eating, and sometimes I would like make myself throw up as well. But so yeah, just very nervous, scared looking, freshly shaven kid, and we eventually get to there. My parents drop me off. Um, when they drop you off, like they're like, hey, what information are you willing to like give to like your like emergency contact? And like I had my parents as my emergency contact, and like I could tell they wanted me to like they wanted to see like everything that I like would say in like therapy sessions and like shit like that. And I was like, nah, I don't want them to know any of this stuff because um I might talk like about them like in some of the therapy sessions, and I didn't want them to be like able to like look at everything that I was doing. And I could tell my mom was annoyed, but that was a good thing for me to do and set boundaries with her. And yeah, and then they dropped me off, and they took me in this van. And I'm just gonna use people's like first initials when I refer to people in this story. But this guy named M, ooh, like from James Bond. um, he picked me up. He was a Formula One driver who's also an addict. Um, like all the people there were like in recovery who like worked there, which is pretty like sick because like it's not like a fucking like therapist who's never been like addicted to like drugs or alcohol before. Um, and me and M, um, he gave me a fucking wristband that said "one day at a time" in Comic Sans font, which I really like the wristband. Um, it's pretty meaningful, and he was like one of the most like positive like people that I've ever like met. Like, and he had like a very sad story, but like the fact that he was able to like get through all that shit uh was sick as fuck. And so they take me to one of the houses and they check me in with the nurse, and me and the nurse there became decent friends. And they said that they were going to take me to this other rehab house called I can't say the name, but let's call it M House. and and I was like, all right. So then in the place I was at, one of the guys who was the house leader actually, who was one of the guys in the rehab who, so like they have like a house leader, is someone in the program who like runs the house, and there's also like a life skills leader who's like the second in command, um who's like in charge of like making sure people all do like their chores. Like we have a lot of like chores to do in the house. And so it was the fuck the house leader was like, hey, do you want to like eat dinner with us? And I was like, yeah, I want to eat fucking dinner with you guys. And they just kind of like made me like feel like accepted like instantly. And but like I didn't want to get like too attached to any of these dudes because like I knew I was having to like gonna have to like leave for like the for this other house that I haven't even been to. And but then they were like, hey, like, do you want to like stay here with us and like not go to like the other house? Because like the other house was not uh let's just say the people there were not as chill at that house than they were at this house that I was at. And I was like, yeah, I want to stay with you guys, and I did, and that was probably like one of the best things that like happened to me there, like being able to stay at the house that I wanted to with like all the guys that I wanted to, because there was only like four guys in the other house, and there was like 16 guys in this house, and I had an amazing roommate. Um, yeah, he had like the sickest and darkest sense of humor like of all time, and we're still in touch, and he's kind of the best. I'm gonna call him probably after this, but he said one of the funniest things he said was it's like, yeah, I never shot heroin, but that's only because I'm a fucking diabetic. And just like in like a van ride when we were driving down to an AA meeting, he's like the funniest guy ever. And but yeah, and we did this thing called Chicanas, because this like the place where I was at was like, I believe like built on like Native American like land, and they had this like fire pit that was like blessed by like a priest, and they gave us like this like Native American necklace, and like once someone would like leave the rehab, like one of our brothers, we call each other brothers, would like leave the rehab, we would like press into like the circle of this necklace like what we wish would like go, they would take with them to like the outside world, like not rehab world. And so something like strength or like love or wisdom, and like that was pretty sick. And and one of the first the guys there, I'll just say his name was Scott. And he I saw his Chicana like the second night I was there, and like we went around and like said like nice things about him, and just it was like by like the sacred fire pit, and it was just like a very like meaningful experience. And like he was one of the guys that like vouched for me to stay in the house, the good house, we'll just call it the good house. um and like yeah, that meant like a fuck ton to me. Same with the house leader, Wayne, and Wes, and Brian. I shouldn't name all these people, but like I'm not. I might bleep out where it's located, but um, it's only first names though. That's true. But yeah, it was a very meaningful experience. Like the whole time I was there, I actually became a second in command of the entire house, and I was like the youngest person there at the time, which is pretty sick. That's like one of the biggest things that I've could say in my life that I'm like proud of myself, is like being able to like do that and like somewhat like lead dudes who are like all older than me, which was fun. Yeah, everyone kind of seemed to like me there in Tennessee. They liked my goofy energy, and I actually ended up doing stand up for the guys, because we had a karaoke machine, and like we were either supposed to like have like a it was like a weekend, we were supposed to like have like an AA type meeting together, and or we could do some karaoke. It was, I could tell like the staff was being lazy that night, but and like no one wanted to do karaoke, so I'm like, can I just do like stand up? And like I told people that I did stand up, and that they did want to hear some of it, and I performed stand up in rehab at on a karaoke machine, and I got everyone to laugh, even like the older conservative people, and and it was like, I don't know, that was probably like the most fun I've had in a long time. I'm just like making me and like my friends laugh like that. in like such like an intimate like setting, I guess. And I got the nurses to laugh. I was happy about that. Shout out to the nurses at this place. Um, I don't know what the HIPAA laws are. HIPAA's like you can't like mention certain shit or like talk to like the staff can't like talk to you or whatever because like I don't know, it's dumb laws, but I don't know exactly what I can or cannot say. But yeah, and yeah, I it was definitely like one of the hardest, but also like most meaningful like experiences like of my life. Like I came to the conclusion that like I don't want to kill myself anymore, basically, and I already kind of feel like I'm on like borrowed time, especially after the mushroom incident where I should have died. Like it's a fucking miracle that I am alive after that, if I'm being honest. Plus all the times that I was mixing pills with alcohol and drinking and driving. And thank God I didn't fucking kill anybody with my car. Like Jesus Christ. And I don't know. I am grateful for like everyone like in like my life who's been like with me through this shit and like supported me. And like I know I might like talk shit on like people that I feel like wronged me, but like honestly like I don't really have any like resentment towards them now because I heard like hate or like revenge is like you drinking poison and like wanting the other person to die or some shit like that. I know that's cheesy, but like I don't know. I'm cool with being cheesy. um and like they say this a lot like in rehab like do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And like I felt like I wanted to be like right all the time and like that my opinion was correct or like the way I was doing things was correct, and that was just like my ego like telling me all these things like oh I'm smart you know, and like but like no I don't like I know that I know nothing, you know, and I just like want to like learn more about myself and like I don't know. I do feel like I learned a lot about myself uh since I got out and while I was in there. I had to let go of a lot of my beliefs I had as growing up as a child, which I already have, but I was kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater sort of thing, and I kind of like my whole perspective kind of like changed on like life and like what I find important now, which is good, but there's obviously still a part of me that like wants to get fucked up and like drink and do pills because I'm an addict, and yeah, and like I know people are gonna be like, oh, you're not an addict, but like I am an addict, and like I'm an alcoholic, and but I know that those two things aren't going to define me, you know, because I have a fucking plan in case shit like that goes down, and I have a fucking great support system now of like 30 dudes who have my back, and I know they love me, and I love me now, so and that's the only thing that fucking matters at this point. And yeah. I do want to talk more about this, but this is getting too long of a podcast and my voice is starting to bother me. I don't always like hearing myself talk. but yeah. And oh yeah, before I go, I just wanted say that like if you need help with any of this stuff, like, and people like tell you like that you don't need to like get help and that you're fine, like they might be right, but they might also be fucking wrong, you know? Like a lot of people told me, they're like, yo, don't go to rehab, you're fine, you know? And like, thank God I didn't listen to those fucking people, you know? Because like, for me personally, going to this place, meeting all these people, learning about who I am sort of thing was like the best decision that I ever made in my life, probably. And so I would just encourage people to, I guess, evaluate all the people in their like lives and like see whether or not like that relationship is like a healthy one, and like if they do good to you and it's not just like a one way sort of relationship. And just check in on each other. Check in with your friends and your homies, your girlfriends, your boyfriends, you know, it's everybody. And yeah, I don't know. Be good to each other, y'all. And I'm sure I'll talk more about this later, but that's all for now. Love you guys. Peace.